Hello there. Welcome. This video is for those of you who may be interested in horse race base or how I research the odd angle and stat. I'm actually going to look at the Tim Vaughan one, which I touched on in the video the other day, but I didn't really do so for the purposes of kind of showing my approach within horse race base. On this occasion, as you may or may not know, it's one of the main tools I use, certainly for kind of trainer, track, jockey research. I also use the race cards, the ratings, as well, and various other bits and pieces. It's only about £10 a month, and it's just packed with loads of stuff. And if you like researching your own angles, etc., it may be worth trying the free trial. But that's up to you. But yeah, if you're interested, I'm going to quickly, hopefully, I know many of you like me to keep these videos brief, so I'll keep looking at the time. We're 1 minute in. So yes, Tim Vaughan, that came from, I mean, there's many ways you can research within the system builder here and the research tool. You can dig into kind of years and years worth of data, set up some parameters and dig, but I'll do that another day. My way in this time was actually wanting to look at Tim Vaughan for a few reasons, mainly because he'd had a couple of handicap chase winners in the last few days, and both of them hadn't really done too much on their last start, which, coincidence would have it, was their first over fences in their career. So with that in mind, I wanted to have a look. Having had I keep flicking through the survey results that many of you have been kind enough to fill out. There is a demand, I think, for me to do a bit more on the stats and micro angle stuff. And I may ponder doing a kind of micro angle Monday focused on handicap chases, because I do want that the time I spend in that research to provide a kind of statistical foundation for those races that I'm going to then look at in terms of for tipping purposes in section 2. So that just makes sense on many levels in my own head. But that's certainly where I'll start. And it would be good, I suppose, to build up. I'm not going to do too many. It might be kind of 1 to a week is what I'm kind of thinking at the moment, as that shouldn't really be a problem from kind of 10 a.m. to kind of midday on a Monday for me to have a look in and a dig around, looking back at what kind of happened the week before, possibly in some tipping races and ideas that came into my head. So the first thing I can do, I can use this search bar in the top right hand corner as I tick around to 3 minutes. I'm looking at Vaughan, so you can just search. So I put Vaughan in there. You can see the different things that come up within the horse race base database. You can see Tim Vaughan down here. You can look at various different things with these trainer stats. I'm going to use the V4 query tool here. I specifically looked at the last 3 years. So you've got his overall stats there. You can see all of his runners since the start of 2005. You can see all of the stats there. And you can kind of break down within horse race base using this breakdown tab and kind of dig and have a look. You can also use the dig tab here, which I can go into in a moment, which kind of looks at, you can compare kind of 2 or more factors. And I actually didn't do this at the time, but I might do that here. So yeah, you can break down by various different things. With trainer habits and research, especially, I suppose, non-track based, much can change in 3 years. So I like to take a kind of 3-year look to start with, kind of full years. So I went from the start of 2016. You can see what I've done there, breakdown by year. Click to the bottom and proceed. You can see the breakdown by every year. And I kind of selected 2016, 17, 18, and 2019, which obviously is the year to date. Mainly because with trainers, lots of things can change. Many of them, if they're any good, will be trying to improve their facilities, their training methods. They'll be going around looking at other yards, getting ideas, of course, there. So you'd like to think in time they might be improving as trainers. They obviously can use different jockeys in that time and build different relationships, which may make a massive impact. Then you've got their buying power linked to their ownership. If they're attracting new owners or owners with deeper pockets, the quality of the horse they can buy may improve. So there's a few reasons why I think, especially with trainer angles, it may not be necessarily wise to go too far back at times. So start of 2016. You can see his overall strike rate there. Now I can break down and have a look at different race types. So again, hitting the breakdown tool, race type. I mean, there's so many different things you can dig. You can just look in front of you, the number of different things you can look at. And I wanted to get a feel. So these are all the different race types as defined by Horse Race Base. You can see the chases are down here. So handicap chases are kind of standard handicap chases. Then you've got handicap novice chases, and you can kind of see the handicap hurdle record there as well. I could break down and just look by national hunt race type here. This box to the right, that looks at hurdles versus chases versus flat, and those other ones may have been on the flat turf, I should think. Yeah, so chase, hurdle, national hunt, flat. You can see he kind of does a bit better with his chasers there. I'm obviously interested in handicap chasers. As you know, they're the overall stats there. All runners are only performing 4% below market expectations there, an AE of 0.96, which isn't too bad, and actually gives you a good set of stats to dig in, and 30% of them are winning or placing, which again is solid enough. You may want to get that win strike rate up, but that looks decent enough. So from that start, the set of stats you can see there, we can get digging some more. Of course, with trainer angles, you're never really going to have a massive data set. That's why you need to have logic or reasoning for why you think a trainer is doing something, for why they do certain or why they perform well in certain criteria. I think it's good to try and think through what they may be thinking and why they do it, and that's especially important if you want to assume or hope that whatever angle you're researching may be repeated over time. So having any logical, having a logical foundation or basis to any stats is important, I think. So yeah, so we've got chasers. You can see that I can dig down in the different types of races, and you may be able to see there when doing that why I was interested in looking at handicap novice chasers. I'm not gonna. I could make this video half an hour, and I'm not going to go on half an hour. 7 minutes already. But these things can only be as short as they can when digging like this. You can. I'm not going to dig into handicap chases as such. I tried to. I've spent kind of 20 minutes, half an hour looking through all these different breakdown things here within a handicap chase pool to try and find ways in. I didn't look at track or track jockey combo. I might just click a couple of buttons and show you the dig function to do that in a moment. But if I go to, back to race type, let me just focus on handicap. Well, I'll select both, because the first thing I looked at, if you read through my musings in the post the other day, was with that idea that I said at the beginning, that I'd noticed a couple of recent handicap chasers kind of progressing or making an almighty amount of progress over fences on their second start, having not necessarily done much on their first start over fences, which was their last start. I can break down and look at horses' runs within national hunt race type, and because the start the set of data is looking at chases, this will break down how many horses have run, the number of runs said chasers have had. So you can see there handicap chases of Tim Vaughan. That's both in standard handicap chases and novice handicap chases, which are two very different kind of sets of races to look at. You can see there, those that are running over fences for the first time within a handicap chase or handicap novice chase are only 3 from 49, 11 places. This would indicate he's very much keen to give his chasers a gentle introduction to chasing. Many trainers will do that. I think I heard once that Venetia Williams doesn't necessarily actually school her chasers very much, and kind of uses novice chasers to do that job. Whether or not that's correct, I have no idea. That's one of those rumours you hear when talking to various different racing folk. But yes, so you can see there, you can see there those that have had one start. So therefore, having their second start today, you can kind of see how well they've done. But with that in mind, I want to go back quickly to where am I? To handicap novice chasers. And then I want to break. I mean, you can see his overall record in handicap novice chases since the start of 2016 is decent enough. And if nothing else, I suppose that is a solid starting point. You can then dig within that. Odds is important, I suppose. So you get a feel where the market support is important, and importantly, whether there's a kind of massive priced winner skewing certainly the profit results. You can see there all his winners in handicap novice chases to date have been 16 to 1 or shorter. It's not a massive amount that have been sent off at bigger, and he's had one place that was 33 to 1. So when I kind of put guide in brackets or something like that with a price point, which you may see in the micro system test zone or something else, it'll mainly be because the stats above the price point guide aren't kind of massive. You wouldn't with these stats here go, I'm never backing a Tim Vaughan novice handicap chaser sent off bigger than 16 to 1, because at some point one of them will go in. So very much a horse by horse basis and a guide. So I won't put an odds cap on as such. Going back to those horse runs in National Hunt race type, like I said, to repeat myself again, these ideas came from watching racing, reflecting, thinking about why I didn't back a horse. I know some people might find that annoying at times. It's not so much, well, occasionally it's beating myself up if I miss something obvious, but from any unbacked winner at a good price, there's always something to learn. You have to try and look back, I think, in a way which gives you some ideas of being better moving forwards. And from backing a loser in one of the races I looked at and not backing the Tim Vaughan winner, hopefully stumbling across this particular angle might do quite well. So you can see there that in novice handicap chases, his record, when broken down by those that have had a certain amount of run over chases, and we're looking at 1+, so I can select 0. So I don't want to be backing those that have never run over fences before. Clearly the odd one's going to win, but from a kind of systematic micro point of view and even a starting point of view, they're clearly hard to find. Having said that, the place strike rate is decent enough, but they are, in terms of the odds they're sent off at, they're performing 49% below market expectations. So I can click this apply not rule, so that will basically filter out and just leave me with all of those that have had one or more starts, and therefore clicking that button we get the stats here, and that's kind of what I highlighted within the post as I tick round to 12 minutes. And you can see that, simple as that, a kind of starting point idea, having watched some racing, thought about it, trying to work out Tim Vaughan's MO, like I said, trying to think of the logic. Obviously there's logic for why he would give a gentle introduction to a horse over its first run over fences. It may well have been in the wrong conditions, they may not have liked the track, possibly deliberately the wrong distance, maybe the wrong class, not the right jockey on. They may not have been fit, they may have needed the run. That was certainly the case for one of his recent winners, which I kind of overlooked a bit. And yeah, you can see the stats there. You know, performing 39% above market expectations is decent enough. 32% win and place. You can see the stats here since the start of 2016. Hopefully, touch wood, that may be a decent micro angle just to follow systematically, but without doubt an angle that has a kind of 25% historical strike rate, a good logic, a good MO that's built on the trainer's record is definitely a good starting point and way in with certain bets if you like playing in these races. The other thing I'll say, you can click on the stats, you can click on the qualifiers here. I can look at all the different qualifiers, what they were sent off. I like to just click the winners post tab here. Obviously with trainer stats, some of them can be heavily skewed by the fact they, or skewed I should say, by the fact they have one or two horses that have won multiple times, and that can obviously, those kind of stats aren't necessarily very useful. I think when I counted through here, there are 17 different individual horses that have won within this micro angle, which is decent. Again, that would support the logic of this and the approach of Tim Vaughan. It's one that he takes, and he targets handicap novice chasers. He probably has a lesser quality of animal. Maybe he doesn't think he can compete in standard handicaps as much, or he just thinks they are there for the taking, and he's happy to target them as a race type, which I think the stats, certainly compared to his standard handicap chases, would support. Of course, from here you can then dig down by any number of different things. So from that start the set, you could look at track if you wanted. You could look, and you can sort this by all these different factors here. I like to firstly look at wins high to low, just so you get an idea. You know, he's only got one winner and he hasn't had many runners at other tracks. And obviously you can, when looking at these races, look at his overall record at the track. When you may dive into a race a little bit more, you can look at the distance that these have run at in the context that we are dealing with 75 runners. That is, even for trainer stats, you know, that's a decent sample, I think, for this sort of angle. But obviously it's not massive, so you wouldn't want to get hung up on too much. But you can see here he's had winners all the way from 16 furlongs through to 26.5. So there's clearly no distance preference. You can do all sorts. You can look at distance move. Is the horse moving in distance from its last start? That might be an indication it's about to improve. It's now running over its proper trip. Again, they're moving up, moving down, but the stats aren't massive, so nothing there. Of course, you can look by jockey. If we look here, you can see Alan Johns is the main man to go to there. Richard Johnson only won from 8. Tom O'Brien's had a few rides as well, so you can look at that. You could look at how he uses claimers. You know, there's all different kind of things in the knowledge that, you know, £3 claimer, that probably is Alan Johns, I should think, when he was claiming. I think he's ridden out his claim now. Yeah, you can get a feel for, but of course in this stat set, 79 bets, you may not dig too much. But yeah, there's any number of things you can look at. Race class, if we go down here, I mean, I don't like playing in class 5s, but if you're following the micro, or if you want to follow the micro angle based on the strength of these stats, or if you wanted to track it, clearly being put off class 5 races doesn't make any sense, but you can see that it does particularly well in class 4. You can look at months. Is there a time of year that he targets? Does he actually try and target the summer? Does he do well in the winter? You can see there actually his record from October onwards is decent. August onwards does well in June. So actually all year. So there's nothing there in terms of the time of year he targets. All sorts of different things. You can look at horse age and various other different stats. He does quite well with 9-year-olds actually, which is interesting. Kind of older horse that can run in a handicap novice chase may be interesting in itself. They may well have lots of pointing form, lots of hunter chase form possibly. Just thinking aloud. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, that's kind of how I research such angles. Then I can save it. You can look at staking, do different things. You can look at each way. So I could set a minimum price of, let's say, 5 to 1, minimum number of runners 5. You can reload that and you can see that each way returns if you put 1 point each way. Probably not as good actually as backing them to win, but of course this is based on starting price, so some of these will have been backed in from bigger odds. So I tick around to 17 minutes, which keeping this under 20 for a horse race base, or how I research things kind of angles video, is probably good going. What else could I look at if I get rid of that as a stat? If I get rid of handicap novice chases and just dig down into standard handicaps. I did spend some time, like I said, looking into these angles. I wasn't too successful, but I will just highlight. Well, let's just look at odds first of all and try and narrow it down a bit, because there will be quite a few bigger odds. Well, you know, he does have some big odds winners actually. Yeah, let's ignore odds for the moment. You can use this dig function, so you can click this dig thing here. You can compare different angles. So if I look at minimum 1, select the minimum number of qualifiers, not bothered about that. I want to order it by wins, high to low, and I can compare. I could do track and jockey, for example. So if I click track, if I click jockey, we can see his handicap chase record with all standard handicap chases at certain tracks with certain jockeys, ordered by wins, high. So I can click proceed, and you can see there. Actually, I'm not quite sure what's happened there actually. They look a bit low, but you can see the examples of the different winners. Hold on a second. I think that's right. Anyway, yeah, you can look at track, jockey. I am doing this kind of live. And you can see the kind of different records. There's actually nothing stands out there as a kind of trainer-jockey combo relationship as such. But that's the kind of idea that you can dig into different things. Let's have a look. You could look at track and race distance. Is there a certain course and distance that Tim Vaughan does well? Ludlow standard handicap chasers leading the way, only 3 from 9. It doesn't actually seem to have many tracks that you would call target tracks, and maybe that's very much about picking the right races. So as I tick round to 19.5 minutes, hopefully those of you interested in how my brain sometimes works with researching such angles like that Tim Vaughan one may find that video interesting. I can tell maybe in recent time I've got away a bit from analysing angles and looking at micros and things, trainer angles, jockeys, tracks, and I should probably do a bit more of that, certainly in relation to handicap chasers, which is what I enjoy, and that's where the enthusiasm comes from, and I could probably talk about all day, you poor souls. So with that said, thanks for watching. Hopefully you found that useful. Do post a comment or any questions if you wish below, and this is Josh saying bye for now and see you soon.